right, everyone, welcome back to our next edition of the Beginner's Guide to Backyard Barbecue. That's what we're even calling it. I think I call it something else every week. But this week, we're sticking to the theme of just making these kind of quick and easy recipes. We picked something that is usually one of the first more ambitious cooks that people lean toward, and that's pork ribs. So I was coming back from the gym this morning. I stopped at the grocery store. I picked up a rack of baby back ribs. Next door is an Ace, and we just went into Ace. We picked up a basic rub and barbecue combination. So first things first, we got to get the grill started. The grill is still set up from the salmon video that we made last week. So I have my fire starter here that I just kind of put in the corner. We have lots of charcoal that we can still use, and even a few pieces of our lump apple wood. So I'm just going to get this started here. And we're going to let this go. I just put it out. So we're going to let this go for about 15 or 20 minutes, come back and start stabilizing temperatures and all that stuff. So I'm going to go inside. We're going to start seasoning up the ribs and stuff, and I'll see you in there. All right, everyone. So we have our rack of baby back ribs here. I also, the rub that we chose is the Heath Riles competition barbecue rub. I'm not usually a big fan of competition style rubs on like backyard ribs because it tends to make like a very rich like barbecue, and if it's really rich, you're not going to be able to like tolerate eating much of it. You'll find yourself getting satiated like really quickly. These competition rubs are usually good for like the best one bite of barbecue, and that's really what they're aiming for in competition. Is the judge is going to get one bite of what you got, and it's got to just smack them in the mouth as much as possible. So that's why they make competition rubs. Usually you want to go with something a little more subtle. I just went with baby backs because that's what they had. A lot of times I go with the St. Louis style ribs, which is a little thinner. It's a less meatier, but it has a higher fat content to it. So the way that I compare it is like a baby back rib is like a filet mignon, and a St. Louis style rib is kind of like a ribeye, right? So if you find yourself maybe favoring one more than the other, that'll kind of give you an idea of which one you might like more, but experiment with them. So we got to cut this guy open. And we will cut it along the bone side here. Slimy stuff. So first thing we do, as I said before, is we pat everything dry. We want to get all that excess moisture off the ribs, just like we did with the steaks, the salmon, you name it. We always pat everything dry. We'll hit the meat side. Now, for me, I remove what's called a silver skin from the ribs. Sometimes they're removed already. It doesn't look like this one is. And it's kind of controversial. Some people swear you got to do it. Some people swear you don't. I'll show you an easy way to do it with a butter knife here. So you find a bone, you slide this in like so. Start peeling that guy up. And then once you get your thumb in there, if you're lucky, you'll have a good rib that peels off. Oh, it's not quite gonna peel off in one piece. So we'll fight this one. Oh, that's because of where I scored it, right? But you see how this silver skin pulls off here now. start over around right here. So sometimes, and in my experience, this skin doesn't really render down during the cook. If you're on a direct heat smoker, you'll have better luck actually doing that, but on the Weber, we definitely won't be able to render down the silver skin whatsoever. And it'll be kind of tough to chew through. So, anyways, we'll look over the ribs and just kind of look for any hanging stuff that'll just burn off during the cook. Maybe soften edges a little bit if we can. Don't really need to. This thing is looking pretty much good to go. Another thing that I mentioned before is that I never use binders anymore. I used to. Came across some information on the interwebs one day that it is a surprisingly heavily researched topic, and they do nothing whatsoever. I mean, they do absolutely nothing for the flavor profile of the food that you're cooking. But they also, in my experience, don't really help the rub stick at all, which is what a binder is supposed to be intended for. So we're pretty heavy, but we're not actually as heavy as I normally would be because of how strong I expect this rub to be. However, I will say, like Heath Riles, when he's serving up competition barbecue, he's doing it with baby back ribs. So he's like the 8-time grand champion at Memphis in May, which is one of, if not the most prestigious competition barbecue in the world, which is why I want to try his rub. So they had it at Ace. I want to see what it's about. Whether or not this is truly what he uses on his ribs for competition, I don't know. I know a lot of times also people will take like a competition barbecue and like a rub and mix it a little bit just to dilute it somewhat, maybe with like a jalapeno or some other type of rub, but just seasoning it up pretty heavy. Baby back ribs, like I said, they're a lot fatter than the St. Louis or spare rib style. So maybe you can be a little bit heavier with the rub than you would be, but 100% seasoned all the way around, no doubt about it. For some reason, the seasoning just kind of stuck there and I didn't need a binder to do it. So if you really like using a binder and that's your way, go for it. But in my experience, it really just does nothing. So at this point, these are looking pretty good. Let's go back outside, check on the Weber and see how it's doing. It looks like we got this thing rolling pretty good. There's some hot embers mostly on that side. We expect it to catch and kind of roll this way throughout the cook. We'll replenish as we need to, but the other thing I want to make mention of, I do have the drum smoker over here. We're not using this because, or we're not using it today because it's only one rack. If we were having somebody over and making 2 or 3 racks, or if we were making something bigger for ourselves, like a beef rib or something, we would be using that. However, this is perfectly suitable for 1 rack of ribs, even 2, and they make little stands and stuff that you can stand them up sideways and make up to 3. On the Weber kettle. I've done that before, but if I were doing that now, I would use the drum smoker. So we're going to close the lid and see if we can stabilize temps. We're looking to maintain 300, maybe 325 on the lid where it reads hotter for the entirety of this cook, maybe 5 or 6 hours. So let's get it rolling and see how it does. Well, we got the Weber holding pretty good. We're at just under 300 according to the lid. For this cook, really you want to be anywhere between 250 and maybe up to 325. You can go down to 225, but at that point the cook's going to be so slow that it's kind of agonizing. We're pushing higher temps for 2 reasons. Number one, I've had no problems running a little higher temps than a lot of people do. You'll see some people swear by 225 or 250. I run 300, 325 with ribs, and they come off super juicy and stuff. But it's also kind of late. It's 11:30 right now, and we want to serve these ribs for dinner, which for us is around 5:30. And a rib cook can take anywhere from 5 to 6, and I've even seen 7 hours before. So we're not going to be afraid to push this thing up to 300, 325 on the lid. If it's 325 on the lid, just remember the grate is going to be a little cooler because hot air rises. So if you see these, I'll try to show you. They're looking really shiny. That's the moisture that the salt is kind of pulled out of the ribs. It's been about 25, 30 minutes since we seasoned them and put the lid on the Weber and stuff. So with all that being said, let's take the cover off. I also added some fresh wood chunks. Those are hickory. We'll still use the apple or cherry chunks or whatever they were from last week because they're still good, so why not? But we put these guys right on the grate, close the lid, and periodically, I'd say every 20, 30 minutes or so, I'll come out and I'll just check the lid and have an idea that our temperature is doing okay and it's not starting to run away from us or anything. If we do have any unexpected issues or whatever, I'll check in with you guys in a little while. So it's been like an hour or so. The temperature on the lid did creep up to like 350, so I'm closing this one most of the way. It was 100% open before, and I pushed the damper on the bottom side closed just like a sliver more. One of the things you'll notice about the Weber kettles is that they leak like crazy around the lid, so you might find that temps start to soar away from you a little bit. It's not that big of a deal. Close off your dampers, everything's going to be fine. We don't have to meticulously monitor this thing and make sure that the temperatures never vary more than 5 degrees one way or another. Carla, what are you doing back there? Just looking for stuff to eat. So we're going to open the kettle really quick. I'm going to try to show you guys what the ribs look like at this stage. A lot of people an hour in are going to be spraying with some kind of spritz. They'll use apple cider vinegar or Coca-Cola. If I were to use anything, it would just be water. I don't think anything else does anything. I doubt that I'll spritz at all. The only time people do is if they look like dangerously dry around some of the corners and they're starting to crisp up already. Otherwise, them being dry really isn't a problem. When the meat gets up to like 160, 170, you'll notice that it starts to sweat a little bit. And soaking it in water and misting it is really just going to delay that process. Like, we're trying to get through this cook, not continuously slow it down by artificially making the meat sweat. So I'm going to take the phone off of the cradle, remove the lid, and we'll see what these things look like. So there we are. You can see there's a little bit of sweat on them anyways. Not much to see. Yeah, so let's close it up, and we'll probably see you guys in another hour. All right, guys, so we're going to do a quick POV. The grill has been sitting really steady at like 300 degrees or so, according to the thermometer in the lid. We're at like hour 2. I just gave the ribs a little spritz, so you just take like a water bottle, put some water in them. But I want to show you guys what the ribs look like right now. So you can see they're starting to get kind of brown in color. Along this edge, this is why I started to spritz it. So you see that starting to like really crisp up a little bit there in the corners. We want to alleviate a little bit of that. So we want the cook to be low and slow. We don't want to rush it by any means. But sometimes people get carried away with how low and how slow they actually get. This one's going quite fast, it would appear. You can see where our coals and our wood chunks and stuff are at. So maybe by hour 3, which is another hour from now, we'll add some more charcoal to the fire. So close it up for now and see you guys in an hour. All right, so here we are with another point of view perspective here. I just cracked this open and looked at the ribs. It's reading a little low, but we've been holding pretty dang steady at 300 degrees. Every once in a while, you can see it's closed now. It starts drifting too far one way or the other, and I come out maybe every 30 minutes or so, and touch it up and get it to go back the direction that I want it. But we will open this sucker up, and you'll see that the water tray is completely dry. So I have some water in my shaker, and we're gonna pour this in there. And they look pretty good. So I will put the phone back in the stand and explain you my thought process. Okay, so at this point we are about 3 hours into the cook. This is when a lot of people would probably wrap their ribs if they're doing like a 3-2-1 method or something like that. We're not even gonna do all of that. We're gonna leave them unwrapped in there and just monitor them. The reason a lot of people say that they wrap is because they say it'll help cook faster, but for me, in my experience, like taking the ribs off of the grill and then putting them in tin foil with some kind of like water or apple cider vinegar, or sometimes people get really carried away and they like cover the ribs in a little bit of like agave or honey or sugar and then like butter and stuff too. Well, that process of pulling it off the grill, in my experience, actually kills momentum, and then you have to rebuild the momentum back on the grill in order for it to catch up. So I like to just let them go. It's a lot easier this way, and I think when you do all that stuff, the rib is just, the flavor profile is overly complicated, and you're just doing too much, and it just gets too rich, and it's not what I'm going for. So it's not what I personally enjoy, and I think backyard barbecue, honestly, if you're going for a pure like eating experience, this is the best way to make ribs, right? Not the competition way. Even though I know I bought the competition rub, I just got to try it once. So I'm bending my rules a little bit, maybe even breaking them. But you know, we'll just see where we're at. Right now, the grill's holding real steady at 300 degrees. I'm totally happy with that, and we'll give it another half hour, something along those lines, and check in with you guys. So we are at the hour 4 mark. I should say, like a half hour ago, I came out and I added some more charcoal. I added some more charcoal. So when you dump that on there, it kind of smothers the fire a little bit, so temperature dropped. I opened the dampers a little, let some more air in, temperature came back up. So we're holding 300, super steady. I'm super happy with that. At 4 hours at about this temperature, I expect the ribs to be around 160 degrees. If you want, we don't really go by temperature too much. I'm just using this as like a quick reference. If you need a temperature, I would say about 200, 201, 202 degrees is when ribs are typically done. You don't want to overcook them. We'll talk more about that later. But I kind of want to get an idea of how close we are here, so let's take a look. And go straight for that thickest part. Try to hit right between the bone. Yeah, we're at 157 there. We'll come down on this end and take a look too. A little thinner on that end. We're closer to 170. We're at 168. So really right where I anticipated we would be. Things are on schedule. Not that you're allowed to have a schedule when it comes to barbecue. Food's done when food's done. So yeah, we'll give it another probably half hour, maybe 45 minutes, and check on them again. So we bought a barbecue sauce that we are not a fan of. I went to the store, picked up the ribs, picked up a rub, and the sauce is not our favorite. So we're going to show you guys how we make our barbecue sauce. This is a very tried and true like Kansas City sauce, so it's quite sweet, but definitely a banger. Everybody that has it loves it. So I'm going to flash this card up. This recipe, other than that top item, we do a cup and a half. We found a little more than that is a little too ketchupy. This is for 3 racks of ribs. So we're doing 1 rack of ribs, so you can cut all of these ingredients into about a third. So first we have ketchup, Dr. Pepper, soy sauce, a little apple cider vinegar, some molasses, some brown sugar. I made a mess, but that's cooking. Some mustard. And then this is garlic powder, onion powder, and black pepper. We do not use cayenne. A lot of times if I want to add heat, I add it to the sauce. So we'll stir this up and get it simmering. It's on a very low heat level here. We're gonna bring it to a slow simmer, let it cool, and then we will simmer it one more time, and then we'll let it set up at that point. All right, so say hi to the wife. She's prepping vegetables. We got this simmering here, so I moved it up to the front burner, but we'll just turn off the heat. We're gonna let it cool for about 15-20 minutes, and then we're gonna simmer it again exactly the same way. By that point, we'll be ready to start saucing up the ribs. So, see you in a little bit. Well, we're probably getting pretty close here. We're feeling like it's supper time, so we're gonna pull the cover. We'll just take a quick check of temperature. Let's see where we are. So we still got a little while to go. I want you guys to see, this is the first time I've touched these ribs since we've put them on. Man, they're actually probably pretty close. I bet they are. See how they're splitting at the seams like that? We're gonna flip them over real quick and I'll show you something. If you can tear these bones out pretty easily, you know your ribs are just about done. So we're gonna go a little bit longer, probably another 15-20 minutes. We're rocking like 325 on this grill, and then we're gonna sauce them. So we'll see you guys in a little bit when we are ready to start saucing the ribs up. All right, so when it comes to basting, we'll just get a little layer on these suckers, like so. And then we're gonna let it set up. So I think I told you guys in a previous video, these cotton gloves go a long way. It's like wearing little hot mitts on your hands. So you just wanna wear the vinyl gloves just to make sure you don't stain them too much. But we will flip this guy over, sauce the bottom side. Not a whole lot of meat or anything on the bottom side, but just enough bite and taste and texture from the bottom side that you do want to get some sauce on it. So we can flip them right now. I know I said to wait, but we don't want to wait. We got a movie to go see. Okay. Bella, stop. Stay
no,
right there.
Don't even think about it. No. Get over here.
She wants to go say hi to the neighbors. Okay, we're gonna throw the cover back on this thing. We'll give it about 10 more minutes and we're gonna pull those ribs off. All right, so we are ready to pull the ribs off. So you see these suckers, they look pretty yummy to me. They're a little overdone, I would say, on that side. That's kind of how my wife likes them. My 2-cent bit about ribs being properly done or not. We'll save it for another time. So, we're gonna let these set for a half hour. I'm gonna move the coals around and we're actually gonna use the grill to cook our vegetables on. So, I'm gonna rearrange some of this stuff and then we'll catch you guys when we're ready to put the veggies on. All right guys, so as you can see in the grill, I removed the slow and sear. I replaced it with the Vortex. I put some fresh charcoal on top of it. We're gonna put our grate on, start getting that hot, and we're gonna clean this stuff up. All right, so we're ready to dump our veggies on. This little pan is looking pretty hot. So now we'll just keep them moving. I think we got what, probably cooking oil, salt, pepper, garlic. That's all there is to it. So we're gonna char these up. The nice thing about this thing is that this handle actually comes off, so if you want, you can close the lid. We're not quite there yet, but if these flames get like super out of control, I probably will. So, all right, guys, we're pulling our veggies. I'd say they're slightly al dente, but that's the way we like them. So only took about 10 or 15 minutes. Close up our lid. Okay, I'll come back to that. All right, we'll see if we can wrap this up pretty quick here. The ribs are cool enough to touch. They pull apart, they don't fall apart. That's an ideal rib. The trick about ribs is you want it to have a little tear to it. They need to cook ribs like fall off the bone in a restaurant because they need to be ready all day, so they're technically overcooked, and that's what turns them into mush essentially. So if you just got a little pull and a little bite to your rib, that's considered ideal. Let's take a bite. Dynamite, man. You guys are gonna love these. That sauce, it hits every single time. So I hope you guys really dig it. I hope you guys try it. Here is the official taste test. Bella, you ready? Here we go, mama.